Welcome back to another Big Gold Belt movie review. Today, I have the pleasure of reviewing a film for you that I happened to see early this year at Sundance. And then the film just happens to be released last weekend, last Friday, for everybody to finally see. And this film is called Exhibiting Forgiveness. Here's a quick synopsis. A black artist finds his path to success derailed by an unexpected visit from his estranged father, a recovering addict desperate to reconcile. Together, they learn that forgetting might be harder than forgiving. And this is directed by Titus Kapoor. It stars André Holland, Audrey Day, Aunjanue Ellis, and John Jenkins. Now, here's the thing about Exhibiting Forgiveness. Again, I saw this film January at Sundance and was completely blown away by it. And it was something that just felt so important to have this conversation about, as André Holland's character Tarrell, as we see at the beginning of the film, is just him painting portraits of his life. Just as little incidences of his life comes up, he tends to paint them as a way to escape the reality of his situation. We even see him at one point in this film destroy a piece of artwork that he created based off of earlier portraits of his life. When his father comes back around, as he is attempting to move his mom out of a house to put her in a better situation, and his father just sits outside of the gate, and we're introduced to this character. Here we get to see the crux of what makes Tarrell. And it's the pain and anguish that he had to experience as a child growing up. And we get these dramatic flashbacks between him and his father. The most poignant one being like cutting grass and him injuring himself and still having to do everything humanly possible because there was no other recourse for him. And we get to see growing up that his father never fully embraced or took care of him. And here he is as a grown man attempting to reconcile this relationship with his father just by giving him a chance, as his mom constantly pushed him to, just to give him a chance, as he finds out that his parents had been talking and that they had developed some form of bond that he knew nothing about. And just him having to deal with them developing a bond and his mom wanting to see if her son still had space to forgive his father for his entire upbringing. That's what makes this movie amazing, especially with André's performance here, as it's just a son conflicted. A son raising his own child up, having a relationship with his own wife, and now being transported back to having to deal with the father that he had completely forgotten about, that he had blocked from his memory. In the moment he shows back up again, it's all those feelings of a child coming back into him. And Titus, who directed this film, does a beautiful job of painting that picture for an audience to understand just how trapped at times Tarrell feels around his father. And him having to muster up every bit of strength in him to even be around his father, but even to go to the extent of attempting to forgive his father. And this is at the same exact time where he's trying to put his mother in a better situation for her health and her well-being that he knows that she needs. But then again, when you interject this situation with him and his dad back into it, and then him dealing with his wife, him dealing with painting, him dealing with his career, it all just feels like it just engulfs everything that Tarrell wants. It engulfs his peace. And Titus does an amazing job of showing an audience and making you feel the feelings that is going on with Tarrell at the exact time as all of these people are being introduced back into his life. Now, just from a performance standpoint, I mean, you're not going to get Audrey Day, who's amazing in this film, also just as a supportive wife, who's just there for her husband, who she know needs it, as we see Tarrell, again played by André Holland, we see him break constantly in this film. We see things trigger him that shouldn't trigger him. It's one extremely passionate scene of him and his family being in this hotel room and him feeling the need to let everything out. And he lets everything out through his painting, through his art. And we see him breaking down as he's attempting to let everything out. And we see it terrify his wife. Like, we see these things, we see these struggles that he's having. And it's because all of these things as a child is being reintroduced to him as an adult. And if you haven't dealt with it as a child, you're definitely not going to be able to deal with it as an adult. And Titus, along with the actors, do a great job of displaying that to an audience to fully get you to understand exactly why Tarrell is breaking the way he's breaking throughout this entire film. This is possibly one of the best dramas you're going to see this year. When I saw it at Sundance, I remember thinking, like, I don't know if I'm going to get a better performance than what André does in this film. And so far this year, I don't think I've seen a better performance than what he gives in exhibiting forgiveness. Down into the third act of this film, and to me, third acts of films are extremely important because that's the make or break of a film. You can be great the first two acts and losing in the third act. In the third act here, the third act of this film, through some things that just become too typical in these dramas, some things you can see coming a mile away. But the beauty of it is that the whole focus of the third act you don't see coming a mile away. And the whole focus of the third act is literally the title of the film. And they do a great job of presenting someone who now possibly feels like he can deal with the situation, but still, he's the kid who's still trying to grapple with, you're not the person who I needed you to be when I needed you to be them. How can I deal with you now? And that's what exhibiting forgiveness is, to me, more than anything else. It's, you can disappoint me as a child, but as an adult, how do I deal with that disappointment? Do I let it linger? Do I let it build anger? Can I forgive you? Or is it possible to forget some of the things that you've done to me to lead to my forgiveness of you? Titus does an amazing job of building all of those questions up as you're watching Tarrell go through the paths of what possibly could be forgiveness. He doesn't even know. And because he doesn't know, the audience never knows fully exactly how he's embracing his dad coming back into his life. And again, that's what makes movies interesting. That's what makes exhibiting forgiveness interesting, is that as an audience, we're stuck also trying to figure out exactly what's going on with Tarrell here, as well as Tarrell being stuck. And as also with him attempting to use his art to escape everything else around him and doing it beautifully. Again, it's so many layers to what makes exhibiting forgiveness good, but just on the basic level, it is directed beautifully, it is written beautifully, it is some of the best acting you're going to see this year. So on those principles alone, this is definitely something you have to see. So Exhibiting Forgiveness, which is currently playing in theaters near you. So please go out, find a theater, check it out. I think you'll be thoroughly enjoyed by it. Out of an A to F system, I give Exhibiting Forgiveness an A. This is as close to a perfect film as you can get. Again, in the third act, we stumble a little bit and we fall for cliches that tend to happen in these type of films. But even when those cliches happen, the performances and the direction are so strong, you can forgive a little one, because that's all it is a little cliche moments in this film. You can forgive all of those, because in turn you're getting some of the best acting you're going to see this year, and possibly one of the best directed films you're going to see this year. So until just off of that basis, like, this becomes almost a perfect film. Definitely something thoroughly enjoyable to watch, even with its serious subject matter. But again, check it out. It's currently playing in theaters. Let us know what you think. This has been another Big Gold Belt movie review. Peace, people.
I